All right. Thanks, Kevin. Hey, let's go to that question number 2. What are some practical steps that couples can take to build and maintain intimacy in their relationship?
Yeah, Kurt, one of the things that we're going to talk about whenever I'm with you, what are the 3 main roles of a marriage? As a spouse, what is it that I'm supposed to do? As a husband, what's my wife supposed to do? And we're going to talk about friend, partner, and lover. And that comes straight from Genesis 2. But with this question, you can see right there, I think, an important aspect whenever it comes to intimacy. So there are 2 ways I think we can get intimacy wrong. Is one way we can make it the primary thing. And I think outside the church, that's what many people do. They think that intimacy itself is the only reason for marriage, the only thing that distinguishes a romantic relationship. And that's a grave mistake. And yet I think inside the church, we make the polar opposite mistake. And that is, we can begin to claim that intimacy is secondary. It's not important. If we're not very careful, we can actually see it as sinful. And that's not the biblical picture at all. And so I think whenever it comes to intimacy, physical intimacy, that we have to see it as an important thing, but not the only thing. And so it is a primary thing. And to deny that, I think, is to lower the expectation that God has. And yet to crown it as the only thing is to mimic our society, and that will come with its own problems. And so I think first it begins with us putting it into its proper context. Couples need to prioritize intimacy. John Gottman, kind of the leading marriage expert these days, would say that it basically comes down to 2 things: a strong friendship and then prioritizing intimacy. That it literally is those 2 concepts. So it begins with friendship. It begins with this emotional connection that we have with each other. I'm going to talk about the idea that friendship is built on trust, that partnership is built on respect, and then intimacy is built on vulnerability. And so if you and your spouse can build trust and respect, it opens the door for vulnerability to take place. And yet without those 2 things, intimacy is going to become a very dangerous thing. And so for most couples, if they want to improve what goes on inside the bedroom, they can improve what goes on outside the bedroom. They can create a better friendship, go for a walk, understand what's on each other's hearts, see each other, be there for one another. And that friendship then you can carry into the intimacy. But then you have to prioritize it. We live busy lives, so many things take place. As time changes, we go from early on in the relationship where we're kind of driven by hormones and we don't really have to prioritize intimacy. It's just going to happen naturally. The kids come along, careers come along, life gets busy. We have to make sure that we prioritize what is taking place. And this can be something as simple as we actually schedule times of intimacy, that we plan what's going on. People sometimes object to that. And they say, oh, that takes all the romance out of it. Of course, my response to that is, yeah, because planning Christmas ruins Christmas. That doesn't make any sense at all. It allows us to look forward to what's going to take place and how things are going to happen. But I also think we have to look at intimacy as something larger than just sexual intimacy. It is the idea of looking each other in the eye, of having physical touch, of continuing to hold each other's hands, of collapsing into one another whenever we're on the couch or we get into bed and we're just cuddling in that moment, resting in each other's arms physically. And if we can up those times of intimacy outside of the actual sexual act, it will then improve what we experience in those moments. So intimacy is important. It's not the only thing, it's an important thing. And if we can strengthen our emotional connection, prioritize those moments of intimacy, I think we can have an intimate life that thrives.
That's great, Kevin. I love that idea of even the trust being core to it. That as you have trust, it helps maybe if you've come from a background where there's been misuse of the physical, or then the other side of neglect. Trust brings you back to that point where you could have a healthy, intimate relationship with your spouse, and exactly what God intended.